Beyonce has taken over the country music genre. So, Beyonce just put out an album titled Cowboy Carter. Now, of course, this is my review, but not only is it a review, I call myself Analytic Dreamz, and best believe me, we are going to be getting into these dreamlike numbers because this was probably one of the best albums I've heard in a long time. It reminded me of The Weeknd's Starboy, the way he completely changed his artist direction in a way that ended up being a staple in the artist's discography. Because, of course, everybody remembers Starboy for the unique sound that he was starting to transform into, that he finally perfected in Starboy. Obviously, with this country inspired album, Cowboy Carter, this is technically the first time that she fully went country, quote unquote, as far as like mixing elements of country, elements of R&B and hip hop into a complete album. And let me tell you, it's probably one of the better albums you're ever going to listen to in life. As far as sonically, it's amazing. As far as the cohesion, it makes sense from listening to track one to the last track, because some people like to skip around, but to me, the best albums are the ones that tells a story from track one to the last track. I don't like albums. I'm not gonna say I don't like, but I can't put albums on the same level of an album that actually has a story. So a playlist type album that may have hits but comes across like a playlist is not going to be higher on the list to me than an album that tells a story from track one to the last track, and it's a streamlined story. It's not jumping around as far as like the whole overarching picture they're trying to get you to see. Now, it may seem dramatic in the way that I'm covering this album, but there's a reason why we're 3 months in, and even Spotify themselves had to come out and talk about this album, saying that Beyonce's Cowboy Carter became Spotify's most streamed album in a single day of 2024. And this is also the first time a country album has held this title as far as this specific year. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, well, obviously we're only 3 months, technically 4 months in like a couple days in of 2024. So that could change, right? Well, what's not going to change is Cowboy Carter becoming the first album to surpass 500,000 total units in the US by the end of its first week sales of release. So even with that, right? Beyonce with Cowboy Carter has all tracks charting in the top 100. All 27 tracks are charting in the top 100 for Cowboy Carter. If we're talking about the most successful track, of course, is still the Texas Hold'em track, which Beyonce obviously put out as a single along with 16 Carriages. And then the next best performing track from Beyonce is at number, I'm trying to find it. It's pretty easy to tell, but sometimes had to go a little bit down. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, well, that is not exactly what I was going for. So, let me see. I don't think I have the updated numbers. What in the world? Don't you love when you just look up numbers specifically and then it's not exactly what you was looking for? All right, hold up. Well, forget all that. Let's get into the actual predictions. I'm trying to see if we can find it. Oh, okay. So I guess they haven't counted it yet. So we actually don't know how many, or like I don't have the specific numbers yet, but I'm pretty sure all of her tracks from the album is in the top 100. Because of course, I don't spread fake news around here. So if I can't find it, then of course we're just not going to talk about it. Yeah, we don't have the specific individual tracks, but what we do know is it's definitely going to surpass 500,000 total units in the US by the end of its first week. That's probably why I don't have the actual individual numbers yet, since the album technically just came out. But, the sources that I use and cross reference, like they give me a good um, picture. Picture, what in the world? They give me a good picture on how the sales are going to look. So currently, with the album just coming out, I only have the overall numbers. I don't really have specifics yet. But 500,000 total units in the US by the end of its first week. And the reason why I keep repeating that is because the last time Beyonce had over 500,000 was back in 2016. Do y'all know what came out back in 2016? Of course you do, if you're part of the Beehive. The controversial, the anti Jay-Z album Lemonade came out, and it basically sold 653 copies first week. So, of course, that was the last time Beyonce made a significant splash as far as her discography is considered. Because if you really look at the totality of things, really the 7 projects we have to look at as far as first week sales, because that's how many Beyonce has put out from the beginning of her artistry to now, as far as way back in, when did she start? 2001, 2002? But basically, her album in 2003 didn't sell over 500,000, but B Day did with 541,000 first week that came out 2006. That album was the standout as far as sales is considered. So statistically speaking, that was the standout in the breakout album for Beyonce back in 2006. So then you have to skip a couple albums because it was nowhere near the B Day album, which sold around 541,000, mind you. And so she comes back again, blowing that number out of the water in 2013 Beyonce album, where it had 617 first week sales and obviously became her most successful album. So now she broke her, what seemed like her limit with the Beyonce album back in 2013. And the reason why these first week sales are so important is because Beyonce is an artist that people are going to listen to after the fact. The first week sales are an indication of the amount of anticipation and hype that you've built with your art, with your audience, that are willing to listen to your album as soon as it comes out, because that's a pretty good indication on what the projection is going to be going down the road. Because if your first week sales are at a certain number, well, there's no way to go but down. So the first week sales are a good indication of how well that album's probably going to perform when it comes to the grand scheme of things. And especially it's great. It's a great litmus scale as far as comparing her to her peers. So back in 2013 is when Beyonce really put up those numbers as far as breaking her ceiling that was around 300 to 400,000, which is still phenomenal. We're comparing Beyonce to herself. That's what we're doing right now, not to any other artist, because that would be unfair unless we're talking about Drake. See, I had to throw it in there. My fault. So anyway, let's get back into it. So Beyonce set her new career record as far as first week sales was 617,000. And then 2016, which I've already talked about, the anti Jay-Z album. Isn't beef a wonderful thing when it comes to streams? I mean, just look at the track that's literally running the charts currently, that's literally based off beef. Like, there's no other way to say it. The track that's based off beef is the most popular track in the world, which is Kendrick and Metro and Future's track Like That, which is literally the number one song in the world. 90.3 million streams. 76.8 million people pay for this track, which doesn't happen. People don't pay for hip hop tracks. People just stream it and then that's it. But they're getting streams along with actual not hard copy, but like actual purchases on digital platforms such as like iTunes and stuff, so they can have it forever. And people usually just stream the track. So, anyways, beef is the reason why a lot of these sales are the way it is. So, Like That by Kendrick, Metro Boomin, and Future, using that vehicle of drama, going at the biggest rapper ever, has resulted in them having the biggest track ever as far as streaming wise. And of course, that's a callback because we're going to get back to Beyonce in a second. But now we're talking about numbers. So we're saying why these numbers are so significant and why drama attributes to it. Because now, my whole take about going at Drake as a bad marketing strategy does not look good in light of Like That being at the top. But my rebuttal to that, of course, is because I still stand on it. Going at Drake is not a good marketing strategy because best believe me, the only reason Like That is the most successful track for Future, Metro Boomin, and Kendrick ever, like out of their prestigious, iconic career, this is the most successful statistically speaking, this is the most successful track they've ever had in their career. Why do you think that is? And do you think they'll ever be able to replicate that? Of course not. So that's why I say going at Drake is not a good marketing strategy because of the longevity. I would rather have 50 to 60 top 20 hits than one out the park hit that resulted in me losing a lot of top 10 hits simply because I wanted to beef with the biggest rapper in my current genre. So anyways, that's why I say that. But anyways, getting back into Beyonce and why I talked about that, went on that whole tangent. The reason why I said that is because drama filled this album Lemonade like no other, which put up once again, Beyonce been putting out music since 2002, and she put up another career high in first week sales and 653,000 first week copies. So Lemonade back in 2016 debuted on the Billboard charts with first week sales of 653,000 copies. So that is the career high for Beyonce that was put up back in 2016. The reason why I say we're comparing Beyonce to herself, because those type of numbers are unheard of. You really don't get across that threshold of first week sales unless you're a Drake, Adele, Taylor Swift, or maybe a Ariana whenever she was in her prime. But and definitely, I would say The Weeknd, but The Weeknd's more of a longevity type artist. Like his first week sales, his drop off is less than most of his peers. So as far as the highs of first week sales, he doesn't really have that as far as when you compare him to a Beyonce and a Drake. And I know a lot of people are going to come at me like, what you mean? The Weeknd sells so much. If that was the case, he wouldn't have got beat out in first week sales when he was competing with Gunna. Yes, The Weeknd was competing with a rapper like Gunna in first week sales. Granted, the Gunna album was fantastic, but nonetheless, The Weeknd was competing with Gunna in first week sales, and Gunna ended up winning, and he put up like 300 and some thousand. So of course that's a big number, but you're not in the same tier group as Beyonce, Drake, Adele, and Taylor Swift when it comes to first week sales. So, but you still, longevity wise, you still put up similar numbers because of course I think he's like a top Spotify streamed artist. So, people obviously continue to listen to him. So anyways, getting back into this album. Oh, that's what I was saying. Okay, so the trilogy, right? There was Renaissance, Cowboy Carter, and then there's a third trilogy rumored to be like a Beyonce and Jay-Z collaborative album. Renaissance, back in 2022, sold 332,000 first week units. Significant drop off from Lemonade. Why? Simply because of drama. After drama with Lemonade, people could care less, and not care less as far as it's still Beyonce, but comparing her to her past self, people cared less for that release than they did for Renaissance, which showed in the actual numbers in 332,000 being significantly lower than the 653,000 put up by 2016 Lemonade. So to bring it full circle, that is why when we talk about Cowboy Carter having, and this is at the bare minimum, having surpassed 500,000 first week sales in the US, that means it's a huge accomplishment by Beyonce because she does not put up 500 to 600,000 first week units often. She has 7 albums we can look back on, and only 2 of them, 3 of them have surpassed that mark. B-Day back in 2006, Beyonce back in 2013, and Lemonade back in 2016. So with this album making another significant push in first week sales, Cowboy Carter, to me, and granted, I was born in 2000, so don't kill me, Beyonce fans, but it's my favorite Beyonce album from start to finish. This album is so amazing that I would not be surprised in the slightest if she actually ends up winning Album of the Year at Grammys. That's how great this album is. Like, as far as sonically, she sounds amazing. She's performing everything at the umpteenth degree, because if you don't know, she has a plethora of writers, which is used against her, because a lot of fans say, oh, she can't write a hit to save her life. But if you can perform it like Beyonce can, then why don't you do it? Why wouldn't every prestigious writer who's been writing for Beyonce forever, why wouldn't they do it themselves if it was so easy? You know? And obviously, it's not easy. Beyonce performs it in a way that sonically, vocal inflection is just it's just out of this world and through the roof, to the point where you realize that Beyonce is her. You know how people be like, I'm him? Beyonce is her. So anyways, Cowboy what in the world? Cowboy Carter has 27 tracks, and we're going to get to all of them because I ain't going to lie, this is a episode based off of the Beyonce country takeover. I mean, literally this whole episode is titled Beyonce's Country Revolution, A New Era. So best believe we're going to spend some time on this album, because this album, out of all the albums, definitely deserves it as far as just having a track by track breakdown. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be going like super in detail to the point where I'm analyzing every single verse, but I will be giving my overall thoughts on every single track on this album, because I'm not used to playing a Beyonce album like I've been. Like, listening to an album is one thing, but going back to it time and time again, even when, you know, you're in the gym and maybe you want to listen to some Future or some who else dropped, or some 21 Savage, but I'm putting on Beyonce and Tyrant and listening to that hard beat while I work out. You know, it's like certain stuff that's on here that has cowboy infused elements, but still 808s hitting back to the hip hop roots. It's blended in a way like no other, which made it such a unique listen for me, which is why I say it's one of my favorite albums of all time that I've ever listened to. So anyways, so as far as effort, you can definitely tell it was put forth in this album, because this is just fantastic. I mean, listen to the last track, going back into cohesion aspect of it. Listening to the last track, which is Amen, blend perfectly into American Requiem. It's like, oh, this is another level of attention to detail. Like, obviously, people end the album how they want, but blending it in a way to where it calls back to the first track, and then it's basically a never-ending loop of greatness. I can't give enough praises to this album. So anyways, before I get into the album review, obviously let's talk about, you know, the elephant in the room. Beyonce is making country music. I don't know if y'all noticed, but Beyonce is of the African American descent. And what does that mean? Well, the country space is not going to welcome her in the way that we would hope, because of her being black. And it's just simple as that. So throughout her marketing and promotion, she definitely had a lot of the pivotal people in that community give her a cosign to where it made it easier. It made the medicine go down easier, because it made people come around to the fact that, yeah, maybe black people did have a hand in country being what it is today. And maybe we shouldn't be as gatekeeping to the black people versus the white people. You know what I mean? It's almost one of those things where, maybe racism isn't okay. You know what I mean? Maybe I shouldn't just judge them off the skin of the color or off the color of the skin. You know what I mean? Maybe I should just actually judge the music itself without just being so defensive into what Beyonce has contributed to the country genre. Because that specific point I just made is literally why Beyonce is out here paying homage to artists like Dolly Parton, Willie Nelson, also having Miley Cyrus on her album. Like, it's so many things that shows that she's not just being disrespectful. She's paying respects to the greats in that genre based off of the fact that the country, I'm not going to say everybody in country is just racist, because obviously I know people that's heavily in the country and they're pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just my personal life experience. But as far as the totality of things, through research, through people coming back, and the friends I've had that've had, racist encounters with that specific setting, let's just put it like that, I would say that it's much needed growth. It's much needed growth as far as the inclusion of black people, and not only black people, but specifically the black women into that country genre, because sometimes they will let men, they'll be more inclusive to men than women sometimes, and that's just in general in life. So with this being the first woman to top both the hot country songs and hot R&B and hip hop song charts since the inception back in 1958, obviously the sales are cemented forever in life. So let's just focus on the quality aspect and how I think Beyonce uniting people through this country music, country infused hip hop music, I think will help contribute to both genres throughout history, instead of just trying to instead of not welcoming Beyonce. So hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, that was just a little PSA to the country fans out there, because I know they probably, can't wait to call this album trash or whatever. But anyways, and that's not for everybody. Obviously, that's to, if the shoe fits, then you know what they say. You know what I mean? Beyonce Cowboy Carter, track 1, American Requiem, straight classic. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's probably one of the best starts to an album I've ever heard. Like, you press play and it's like jumps out at you as far as the quality and the attention to detail. I mean, I'm talking about the harmonies, the way that she's going along with certain country infused beats. It's set up in a way to let you know that this is not just no half attempt at making a country album. She did her due diligence, did a lot of research as far as what makes country music great, and has implemented that into her own album. And I'm not going to jump around, but even to piggyback off of that, that's the reason why the Jolene track is so significant, because of the homage to Dolly Parton's Jolene track. So anyways, American Requiem, significant start, classic intro to her album. Blackbird, Tanner, Adele, Brittany Spencer, Tiara Kennedy, and Raina Roberts. I honestly don't know too much about those specific artists, but what I do know is Blackbird is fire, and I really enjoyed the track. It's not too much I can go into detail on. It's one of those tracks to where I really enjoyed. You're going to hear me repeat this a lot. But as far as the vocal inflection and sonically, it's just 10 out of 10. Like, the performative aspect of this album is going to be through the roof. So Blackbird, completely phenomenal. And I really enjoyed that track. And just a great follow-up to the intro. And of course, we have 16 Carriages. I've already covered this track in the past as far as, it being a 2-pack single along with Texas Hold'em. So when it first came out, that was my favorite. So 16 Carriages was my favorite out of the Texas Hold'em 2-pack. But obviously, they chose Texas Hold'em You know, as far as they, I mean like the people, as Texas Hold'em is still like towards the top of the charts. And I think last time I looked at it, it was like number 8. So you know, there's that as far as how Texas Hold'em was impacting the charts. And then when you look at it, I wonder if I can find it off of. Yeah, and when you look at it in the USA, yeah, the album's it's hard to look at the stats now because the album just came out. But yeah, so I think it'll be even higher simply for the fact that the album came out because now a lot of people are going to be re-listening to Texas Hold'em, and it'll probably even jump even higher as far as the top 8 is concerned. Because of course, let me see, they say "Ya Ya" is one of the more performing tracks off of the album. Beyonce, Beyonce and Miley Cyrus' second most wanted is aiming for a top 10 debut. So "Ya Ya," um, second most wanted. Texas Hold'em is going to keep rising. So that's already 3 tracks in the top 10, which is crazy for one album. What else? And then they said Levi Jeans is going to enter the top 10. Basically, this album's going to take over. The only thing that's going to stop them from getting that number 1, I think, is the track, which is why I even brought it up in the first place. The track Like That with Kendrick Lamar, Metro Boomin, and Future. Because in this capsule of time, if this was released any other point in history, I'm not gonna say any other point, but as far as before, or if it was before this track, it would have had a number 1, right? And I think at some point maybe it will top Like That, but I think it just came way too soon. As far as it came right out on the heels of Like That, and Like That is still in its prime. I mean, to this day, I'll play Like That like it's the whole album. Like I'll listen to that 5 times in a row and still not be tired of it. Like That is really, no pun intended, but it's like that. Like it's really one of the greatest hip hop tracks ever. Um, Especially the way the beat comes. Okay, let me, it's about Beyonce. But anyways, so all of the tracks from that album is going to chart, and it's probably gonna be one of those where it's like streamlined. Like she's probably gonna take up the whole top 25. I kid you not, because I think some of these are just interludes. So it's technically not 27 tracks. I think it's like 24, because it's like is one the Smoke Hour. I think that's is that the inner. I think that's the. I'm trying to think. I think. Okay, yeah. So Smoke Hour is the interlude. Smoke Hour 2 is another interlude, and then the Lindell Martin Show is another interview. So yeah, it's 24 tracks. So hmm, I would say the top 24, but you never know with 16 carriages. Like I think it's one of those to where it's going to obviously rise, but I don't know if it'll be able to crack the top 25 again when I'm specifically talking about 16 carriages. But it just might, because it's at number 3, and I think that's for a reason. So people listen to that track when they're listening to the when they're what's the word? Sequentially. I forget how to say it. When they're listening to the album in the sequence that it was dropped, 16 carriages is number 3, so they won't skip past that. But anyways, I do see her taking up the top 24 though, definitely. So I can see one of those things, especially with the album being projected to be 500,000 first week. Like top 24, I could see completely being taken up by Beyonce album, because of course Like That by Metro Boomin, Kendrick, and Future, it's gonna stay at number 1. So anyways, what else? So yeah, I like that track. If that wasn't apparent. Track number 4, Protector by Beyonce and Rumi Carter. This is one of my standouts of the album. I would have to get at the end. I mean, you have to excuse me. It's 24 tracks. I don't remember all of my top 5 lists just yet, but I do think this is one of my more liked tracks off of the album, just for the fact that the overall story and the overall message is just something that, is just timeless. And the way that she performed it is just great, in the way that she infused such a timeless message along with a country beat, because it's one thing to sing over a country beat, and it's another thing to have vocal inflection reminiscent of premier cowboy, not cowboy, country artists. So country artists' vocal inflection is very unique. So with the Benson Boone, with what's his name? I totally forgot his name. Who's the guy who be saying the N word every 3 seconds, but he's white? Let me see. You think because he did like 2 collabs with Lil Durk that he can say the N word? Where is he at? Ah, Morgan Wallen. That's who it is. That's who I was talking about. Okay, so Morgan Wallen is the guy who also has a pretty distinct, I mean, it's a lot of country artists that have that distinct vocal inflection. If y'all know, if y'all ever listen to country, you know what I'm saying. Like singers versus country singers, you can tell which ones are really into that, country twang, for lack of a better term. So, anyways, I like the way that Beyonce is able to implement that into her performance and her vocal inflection in a way that makes it more authentic country music. So, anyways, Protectors is one of my standouts. My Rose, I really don't have too much of an in-depth dive as far as this track. I would say it's a solid track. What else? Track number 6 is just an interlude by Willie Nelson, Smoke Hour, you know what I'm saying? Track number 7, Texas Hold'em, obviously one of the better performing tracks for Beyonce currently in the past 2 to 3 years. It's been at the top 10, been on the charts for about like 7, 8 weeks, I believe, at this point, and is easily been in the top 10. So, and it peaked at number 1. So the staying power is ridiculous. And so it will only probably go up from there. But as far as the track itself, phenomenal. I still to this day, I prefer 16 carriages. But hey, teach his own. So track number 8, Bodyguard. That's I don't really have an in-depth dive on that one. I think that track is pretty solid. What else? Track number 9, Dolly P. Okay, is this another interlude or is this the actual track? 'Cause I totally forgot. But actually, hold on. I'm going to mute it. I'm going to listen to it right quick. Because I have the album right here. I'm trying to make sure. Yeah, it was just oh yeah, it was a lead up. So it's another interlude. So it's really only 23 tracks on here. Another interlude to Jolene. Because I was thinking about, I was like, I don't remember that being a song. I forgot I could listen to this and just mute the player. So yeah, I'm gonna listen to these because obviously I can't play the music on here. But I'm gonna listen to these if I like forget. Cause this, hey, I ain't gonna lie, y'all gotta forgive me. 23 tracks that just came out. You know what I mean? It's a lot. So I've been listening to it a lot, but still, it's still a lot to remember. But yeah, Dolly P was a interlude to get you into Jolene, and that, in my opinion, is where the album took off for me. Cause I was like, to take a flip like Jolene, which everybody knows that it was originally a Dolly Parton track. Which actually, let me look it up. Because I want people to realize how big this track was. Because I don't think I really need to tell y'all, but just to put in actual perspective, gotta look at the analytics. You know what I'm saying? Because I think it's a great universal litmus scale to let y'all know just how impactful this track was. So, anyways, released back in 2019, and it sold over 935,000 digital copies. Let me repeat that. 935,000 digital copies. 6.68 million streams since, because it wasn't released back in 2019. It's talking about the numbers since 2019. So obviously they're probably even more today. But even when the official charts started back in 2005, it amassed 255,000 downloads and 6.68 million streams. I love how they differentiate downloads between streams, because a lot of people think downloads is the same as a stream. And as a podcaster, I ain't gonna lie, that's infuriating, because downloads is a specific person. Streams is just one person playing it how many times they want to play it. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, the single was certified platinum back in May 24th, 2023 by the RIAA certification, which is the Recording Industry Association of America. 3 times platinum for 3 million certified units. Because if you don't know, when you pass a certain mark, then you got to get certified. Like, it's not just, they don't just send you a plaque after you pass it. Like, you have to go through a whole process of getting it certified. But then you just got to know that these numbers have changed, probably grew massively in 2024. But I just brought those numbers up to let you know that the track that she's sampling was already successful in its own right. And the reason I say that is because Beyonce's version of Jolene is great homage to the actual quality of that original track. Obviously, I'm not going to compare the two, but let's just say Beyonce had a very unique flip on the way she approached the track, because I believe Dolly Parton's version is more of a not passive aggressive, it's more of a passive, non-confrontational approach to letting somebody know to stop messing with your man. And for Beyonce, let's just say there's this movie, I think it was Beyonce and Idris Elba. Hold on, let me go. IMDb, because I know, no disrespect to Beyonce, but I know she's not in a lot of movies like that I remember. But I do remember this one specific movie, and I love how people kept bringing it up, because this is what it reminded me of. It was a movie which to this day I think is like super iconic. Like, it's one of those type movies where, yeah, back in 2009, okay, it was obsessed with, and it had Idris Elba in it. Like, it's one of those, I ain't gonna lie to you, if you with your girl and it's just, actually, nah, it's not, nah, hey, forget I said that. If you with somebody listening to this, hey, tell them I was joking. There's no movie that exists like that. But whenever she stopped listening, make sure, all right, she stopped listening, all right, cool. So basically, whenever you alone, you know what I'm saying? Because it's not one of them couple movies. Because then they're gonna be thinking, "Why you showing me this for? You trying to show me? You trying to hint at something? You got something to tell me? Like, you don't want them problems." But anyways, Obsessed with Beyonce and Idris Elba, that movie reminded me of this track, and I don't know why. Because I think it's just one of those to where when Twitter had certain scenes from that movie, I really looked at it and I was like, you know what? That actually makes sense, because the whole confrontation, I'm not gonna spoil it, of course, because there was no girl named Jolene in the movie. It's just a great callback to the type of energy this track brings, and it's specifically replicated in her scene towards the end of that movie. Let me just leave it at that. I'm not gonna spoil it for y'all. But anyways, Jolene was fire. Let's just put it like that. Track number 11, Daughter. This is another one of my standouts because of the message. I really like when people put their life perspectives into the music, because I feel like it makes it more everlasting. Because whether you want to realize it or not, music has way more lasting power than a human lifespan could ever have. So your music should be a reflection of your life, so that if you, God forbid, if you ever pass away, people could listen to your music and try to get some type of glimpse into your overall perception of life. Because not every single track is going to be you self-reflecting. Like, sometimes you just want to, make a track say, I don't mess with you, shout out to Big Sean. Or make a track like, Girl Better Have My Money, like Rihanna. Like, even though somebody may feel like that at times, it's just a random track just to get off emotions, right? But, the tracks with your life experiences put into it, like to refer to Big Sean again, like One Man Changed the World, one of my favorite tracks of all time. This track, Daughter, which has a great message in itself. Kendrick Lamar, towards the end of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, whenever he was talking about his father issues and stuff, those type of tracks are significant into letting people into your life perception and that is why I think it stands above the rest to me when it comes to quality. So, anyways, obviously those probably not the performative tracks that statistically are superior because you know people prefer certain things when it comes to replayability, and self-reflection sometimes isn't one of them. But to me personally, I really hold those in a high regard as it gives me a nice. It's like reading a book. It gives me your perception on life through your creative instrument, if that makes sense. So, anyways, let's keep going. Track number 12. Now, this is where it gets spicy. Spaghetti is one of those to where the people who hold against the fact that basically the people who hold against Beyonce, the fact that she uses writers, I think Spaghetti is why it shouldn't be such a pivotal point in the Beyonce naysayers, because the performative aspect is such a integral part in rapping that even though somebody writes down some words on a paper, to make them to make them come to life, you have to say them in a specific way, in a specific fashion, for inflections and certain things you want to emphasize and breath control. All of that comes back into the form which you call rapping. So with Beyonce off of Spaghetti, I think that the way that she was getting off her bars and getting off her ad libs, because I'm pretty sure the ad libs at the beginning of Spaghetti needed some work before they came across as authentic, because it sounds a little janky at first when you listen to it. It's like, why is she doing that? But then when you get into the flow, it's like, oh, okay, she was like literally getting ready to give some bars. I mean, she said at the snap of my fingers, I'm Thanos, and then that's the ad lib I'm talking about. But then she gets into her verse, right? I ain't. Wait, hold up. She was, she was revving up for this, right? When she gets into, they call me the captain, the catwalk assassin. When they know it's slapping, then here come the yapping. All of this snitching, all of this expletive, because it's PG podcast. Just a fishing expedition, dumb admission in the kitchen, cooking up them chickens, extra leg, but I ain't even trying to kick it. Cunty, country, petty, all the same to me, plain Jane spaghetti. No sauce, too soft. They salty, they shooting like curry. One hand on my holster, then pass it to Hova. Thought it was sweet when they was walking in the back door of the kitchen, past the dirty dishes. Now we on the mission. Tried to turn me to the opposition. I'm appalled about the proposition. Y'all been played by the plagiaristic. Ain't gonna give no clout addiction my attention. I ain't no regular singer. Now come get everything you came for. The performance aspect of that track is way better than the way I just read it off. But of course, you would have to listen to it to get that type of comparison. Like if you listen to the track and then if you go back to me reading off the lyrics, obviously you can tell why I started off the review of this specific track saying that the naysayers to Beyonce that say that she don't write her music, they have to stay back. You know what I mean? Because the performative aspect is a huge pivotal part in why I think this track works. So, anyways, that's why I brought that. That's why I brought that up. So, Spaghetti is also one of my standouts. Well, I'm at 3 standouts at this point. At the end, obviously, I'm gonna give out my top 3, top 4. But for right now, we're just gonna get into the rest of the album. Okay, so where are we at? I done lost my place. This album's long, y'all, but it's actually pretty. It's pretty fire. I ain't gonna lie. It's a lot of different genre blending tactics used to keep you on your feet as far as the entire listen. Okay, so Alligator Tears, that is one of those. Let's see if I can find this. Oh, here we go. Okay, so Alligator Tears by Beyonce, more of a slow down track. She's just getting off her vocals, you know what I mean? Just showcasing why she's one of the greatest singers ever. So that track is pretty solid. Track number 14, it's an interlude, so it's good. It's a smoke hour. It gets back into the country roots of the twang, having really Willie Nelson being the narrator of it. So, anyways, track 15, just for fun. Um, I would say that's more of a slow down track. I'm not gonna say that's one of my favorites. It's okay. You know what I mean? It's one of those where it's okay. Probably one of my more skippable tracks off of the album. Even though there's really no skips on this album. Like, this whole album is a vibe. But as far as just for fun, like if I'm in the gym, I probably need more of a upbeat track, which we're gonna get to those in a second. Next, track number 16, Most Wanted by Beyonce and Miley Cyrus. Who would have thunk a collaboration between Miley Cyrus and Beyonce is what the world needed? Cause this back and forth, I want to just call it a duet. It's simply amazing. Easily the standout on the track. The standout on the album for me. Probably top three. Because putting Miley Cyrus on the album seems like a pander move to the country society. But after listening to the track and the way they bounced off of each other and sonically how it complemented one another, with Miley Cyrus, I'm not going to say, forgive me for using this term because it's not raspy, but it's a more country twang type of feel to Miley Cyrus in the way she sings. And then Beyonce comes with the more like elegant vocals to complement that. And I'm definitely not calling Miley Cyrus' voice raspy. It's hard to quantify it. It's almost like when somebody uses auto tune, but for Miley Cyrus, her country twang is like the auto tune. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm sorry. I don't know how to quantify it, but Miley Cyrus has a nice bag that she gets into vocally that I don't think a lot of people can replicate because of her authentic upbringing and the country roots, if that makes sense. So that duet was perfect and made so much sense being on this album. So definitely, easily my top three track off of this album. Okay, and back to back. Oh, that's crazy. So honestly, that's probably my favorite run then. Most Wanted into Levi Jeans. It's probably my favorite run on this entire album because Levi Jeans is one of those where Beyonce and Post Malone, two ginormous, iconic names that if you look at, you would think they would have all the pressure in the world to put out a smash hit whenever they eventually collaborate. And for Levi Jeans, let me tell you that there's no need to worry. The first Beyonce and Post Malone collab has been confirmed a hit, as listening to it, the subject matter, the tonality of Beyonce going first and then Post Malone coming in like 1/3 of the track, and then them both playing off each other towards the end. And then the last 20 seconds is what made me realize that Post Malone brought his A game. Because obviously throughout the verse, they're giving their sentiments about Levi Jeans, a lot of double, triple entendres as far as what that means. And then towards the end, Post Malone gets on his whole solo, basically. And he gets on this singing verse where he's just coming forth with so much emotion in his second verse, I would say. It's like towards the last 20 seconds of the track. Hold on, let me see. Let me play this and see. Yeah, like, so 3 minutes and 40 second minute mark of Levi Jeans is when Post Malone gets into like a bag that was like, oh, he brought his A game. I ain't never heard Post Malone try to hit that key, try to hit that note before. So he definitely knew who he was collabing with on this track. it definitely brought his A game to the point where this is definitely top 2 for me. Top Levi Jeans is easily top 2. We're gonna get in number 1 in a second. It's kind of coming into a clearer picture because I'm going into that whole album. Once again, 23, 24 tracks. It's hard to remember every single track as far as my hierarchy when it just came out. But it's coming into clear. It's being more clear as I finish my review. So, anyways, Levi Jeans definitely top 2 as far as the albums is concerned. Just for the fact that I like the blending of performances of Post Malone and Beyonce. Track 18. How you say this? Flaminico? Flaminico? I don't know. More of a slow down track. I don't really have nothing to say about that. The Linda Martell show. I can't read. I think that's an interlude. Is this an interlude? Yeah, okay. So there's 4 interludes. Yeah, so there's technically 23 tracks because there's 4 interludes. So anyways, and then if you get into the singles, there's let me see. There's actually 21 new offerings as far as complete songs. So 21 complete songs from Beyonce, it's really not that much. Like you look at 27, and you think like, goodness gracious, who's listening to all that? But if you think of the fact that there's 4 interludes and then there's 2 singles that was already, or there's 2 tracks that was already out as singles, really you have only 21 complete songs off of this album, which I think is a, not overdoing it, but definitely not a subservice as far as a Beyonce project is concerned. So anyways, because some people may be like, oh, that's too much, which 21 tracks for some people may still be too much, but we're talking about one of the greatest to ever do it. Like, obviously, if it's this long, it's that long for a reason. So anyways, yeah, track number 20, Yeah Yeah. This is the one that's performing on the tracks currently. And a lot of people are liking this. I think it's because of the performative aspect that could, the what's it called? The potential of performing this is through the roof. Listening to Yaya, you can already picture Beyonce on the grand stage with her backup dancers and the crowd going wild to this track. This probably is the best performative track on this album, which is why it's probably doing well sales. Well, statistically speaking, is probably attributed towards the performative aspect of this track. So that's why I think Yaya's doing so well as far as when it comes to streams, because the potential to have such a grandiose type of performance with this track is just through the roof. So anyways, track number 21. Oh Louisiana is it's more of a slower track. So I would say, and once again, I'm playing the track so I can, refresh my mind on how it goes. But more of a slower track to get you into the next track. So I'm not gonna put too much credence on it, but it's not bad. It's definitely not bad. But anyways, track number 22, Desert Eagle. I would say that's also showcasing Beyonce's just extraordinary vocal ability, and you just have to listen to the album to just know what I'm talking about, because it's literally like, I always say that Ariana is probably the best singer I've ever heard, like in life, and I would say The Weeknd is probably the best like male singer I've heard. Obviously, somebody's gonna come out the cut like, what about Tank? What about what's his name? I forget his name. But anyways, that's the point, right? It's so many people that may be better at a talent aspect, but as far as the totality of things and replayability is involved, it's not all about sales. But if you can captivate the masses along with talent, then I'm gonna be swung as far as who I think is the better all time. So that's why I say Ariana and The Weeknd is probably the best voices, as far as the two as far as the respective people are concerned in their peer group. So anyways, almost pulled a Aiden Ross. anyways, what else? Riverdance, track 23. So let me tell you something. I ain't even got to play this to remember what this is. This is definitely in my top 5. And for the simple fact that y'all remember how I talked about Yaya and the performative aspect, Riverdance is probably up there as far as the next track, as far as having the highest potential on just setting the crowd off and making them go crazy. Because Beyonce knew what she was doing making this track Riverdance. Now, this is a PG podcast, so a lot of things can't be explained as far as what I mean by that statement. But let's just say Riverdance is going to promote a lot of actions from significant others. So that's what we're going to leave it at. All right, so track number 27, Two Hands to Heaven. So I forget how this track went. How did this track go? Oh, this track. Okay, so this is one of those where the harmonies really showcases its highest, like the highest level of vocal harmony. I think is displayed in this track. I really like the vibe it sets. It's not for every setting, I would say, but as far as the vocal ability is on display again, but now it's accompanied by a lot of different background harmonies, and it reminded me of what The Weeknd does sometimes when he's going into his retrospective bag, when it's like they let the beat fade out and the background vocals kind of just accompany the main vocals in a way that's like a huge harmony throughout the rest of the track, making it a total vibe. For people who don't really make music or really go into detail with music like that, that was probably super confusing. All you need to know is that there's multiple vocal tracks with Beyonce on Two Hands to Heaven, and the harmonies on it is amazing, tremendous, and that's basically what I'm trying to explain. So anyways, track 25. Isn't it funny that we're almost at the end of the track and I still haven't said which track is my favorite off of this entire album? It's because it's this one right here. Track 25, Tyrant by Beyonce and Dolly Parton. I didn't even know she was attributed to this album. Oh, because she was talking on it. Because I was thinking, I was like, why is Dolly Parton so a part of this album? And she's never like, I don't think she ever performs. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think she ever performs any of the tracks. It's just like it's like Killer Cam for J. Cole off of the off season. Like Killer Cam was hyping up J. Cole to perform. That's kind of what Dolly Parton is doing mostly on this album. So anyways, Tyrant by far is my favorite track off of the album. And you want to know why? DA got that dope, and Metro Boomin needs to have a verses. Like they need to have a verses, which obviously, Metro probably smoke him. No disrespect to DA. But I'm just saying, some more respect has to be put on this man's ability to make a fire beat. Because the way he flipped the country elements into a hip hop infused 808 sounding type beat is what every person, when they type in country hip hop type beat, this is what they imagine. This type of beat being such hard hitting while also a callback to the country genre roots as far as the infused instrumentation that leads itself into one of the greatest beats I've heard this year. Because I don't want to go too far, because I'll have to listen again and again. Obviously, it just came out. But Tyrant, that beat by far to me is my favorite from Beyonce, because it's like a perfect blend of country, hip hop, and performed by Beyonce, while also just having an overall message of just Beyonce being her, which, technically she is. She's not called the queen for no reason. Tyrant to me is the ultimate depiction of what a Beyonce smash should sound like. And that is why, to me, Tyrant is my favorite track off of the album. Okay, track number 26, Sweet Honey Buckin' by Beyonce and Shabuzi. Now, I don't know if I forgot to talk about this, man. Because Shabuzi's on Shabuzi's on Spaghetti. I totally forgot to talk about him. I got into Beyonce and totally forgot to talk about Shabuzi. Well, anyways, I'm going to do it now. So track number 26, Sweet Honey Buckin' has Shabuzi. And then track 12, Spaghetti, has Shabuzi as well. Basically, this is a guy to where he made his rounds off of being famous through clips. Trying to find a specific clip. Once again, Analytic Dreamz video to see Analytic Dreamz video on Spotify to see the video along with the audio. But anyways, here is this man, and this is who I'm talking about. This guy right here. So I forget which freestyle it was. It was a specific freestyle. I don't know if he posted it. I don't think he's posted it. Anyways, it was a specific freestyle he went viral for, but this is what he looks like, right? And everybody probably remembers him or know what's the word? People probably know who I'm talking about now based off of my based off of me showing his Instagram, because he went viral for some clip for him it wasn't freestyling, it was like he was singing some type of country song, and people just thought he was gonna start rapping because of his appearance, you know. And yeah, he's been doing it for a while. He's been doing it since like 20. Hold on, let me not just guess. Let me look it up. So basically, Shabuzi has been doing this for a minute, which makes me, you know, just be so understanding to Lil Nas X, cause man, that man can't catch a break. I mean, imagine popping off with a certain sound that somebody started before you, and then you falling off, and then that person who started before you, now he's getting his claim to fame. That's basically what's happening with Shabuzi. As he started way back in 2014, obviously we know when Lil Nas X got popping, but now he's making way more waves in the music industry, as not only the Beyonce handout as far as 2 features on her album, but he had a track off of the Spider-Verse album, which obviously Metro was producing, with the track Start a Riot. Wait, was it that specific track? This was from the first track. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so it wasn't Metro. This was from the first Spider-Verse track, and he was a part of that one on Start a Riot. He was with Duckworth. But anyways, since that, he's been making his waves and obviously been keeping his name afloat enough to end up on Beyonce's country-inspired album, not once, but twice. So his his contributions to this album was significant. Every time he came on, he really delivered his verse in a exceptional way, and I think he did an amazing job on making his presence be felt on this album, and making it make sense to Beyonce fans, because people are probably gonna be like, why is he on this album? Then they're gonna listen to his verse and be like, oh, that's why he's on this album. Okay, track number 27, Amen. Now, this is what I was hinting to at the beginning of the album, at the beginning of my album review, how Amen was more of a conclusion to the actual album by Beyonce into going into American Requiem. So it was a conclusion, and then it was a transition into the first track. So it's like a never-ending loop of this classic album, which is Cowboy Carter. So that's why I'm a label Amen as the perfect conclusion to the album, while also setting it up in a way to make the first track seamless in a way that you can just have this album on an absolute loop if you wanted to. Now, for me personally, I listen to an album from start to finish like 2 to 3 times, and then after that I just listen to it on shuffle. So I caught it the second time as far as the last album leading up into the first track, because after the I didn't really notice it the first time. I mean, the first time you listen to an album, you don't catch everything. So, but I just love the cohesion aspect and also the finality of Amen being one of those to where it lets you know that the grandiose album, which is Cowboy Carter, has came to an end, and it leaves you off with some nice vocals from Beyonce, of course. So, I mean, in all actuality, my top five when it comes to this album currently, because remember, the album just came out like, what, 2-3 days ago? My actual top five currently would be. Should I start with number one or number five? Let's just start with number one. Number one will be Tyrant, which is track 25. Second would be Levi Jeans by Beyonce and Post Malone, which is track 17. Number three would be Most Wanted by Beyonce and Miley Cyrus. Number four will probably be, man, it's hard to make a top five. Would probably be Riverdance, track 23. And then number five, yeah, this, I ain't gonna lie, this is kind of hard. I would have to say Spaghetti. Number five would have to be Spaghetti, track number 12. So, yeah, as you can tell, like that's why I kept, saying that my whole, oh, this one of my standouts, I had to wait till I get to the end because that's how I knew how to put it in perspective. So, a lot of I forget what the word is, but basically, I had a lot of preface. I had to preface it with wait till I get to the end of the album because it could completely change. I mean, it's 23 tracks. It's hard to remember all of them. But after, reviewing track by track, I remember my top five now. And obviously, it could change easily. I mean, the album just came out. But one thing's for certain. Tyrant does have one of the best beats this year and last year that I've heard. It's definitely not better than Like That. Like, obviously, we can't be crazy now. Like That by Kendrick, Future, and Metro is a reason why that beat went to Kendrick. But Tyrant is one of those beats where you listen to and it's just you make the scrunched up face. You know what I mean? Like it's a very hard beat and it comes on very when they say it comes on, it definitely comes on. So anyways, no Diddy. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, that is my review of the Beyonce Cowboy Carter album. At the end of the day, y'all have listened to it yourselves, so you will be able to give me a nice review because you've been listening to it longer. So hopefully by this time you can tell me maybe your favorite track, your top three, because at this point in time, 500,000 at least sales for the first week. I know everybody has probably listened to it and their mom. So and it's definitely gonna be a candidate for album of the year for the Grammys. I think it's gonna win. I don't think people realized how good this album was going to be until it finally was out. Even me, I was like, Beyonce's making a country album. Like, I mean, it's probably gonna be solid. Like, you know what I mean? So I didn't have too high of expectations. Really, when this album came out, Drake was supposed to be on like BFB the Pac-Man's album and giving him a verse. So I thought he was about to respond to Kendrick. So that's what I was waiting for. And apparently it was just an old verse. So he didn't clear it for Pac-Man because of the whole Kendrick situation. So he didn't clear it and it ended up not happening. So now I was like, well, let me listen to the Beyonce album. It's like one of those where I was excited for it, but I didn't want to have too high of expectations because once again, I didn't know what to expect. And boy, let me tell you, I don't even care if you come with the highest expectations you ever had for Beyonce. This album is one of one. One of those to where years, decades down the line, we're going to be looking back on Cowboy Carter being one of the most pivotal albums ever in the music industry. So anyways, click my link tree in my bio. Let me know on one of my social medias. What do you think about Beyonce's country-inspired album, Cowboy Carter? And after weeks of listening to it, well, a week, 3-4 days of listening to it, what is your top three favorite tracks from Beyonce's country-inspired album, Cowboy Carter?